On August 27, 1793, amidst the turmoil of the French Revolution, the vital Mediterranean port of Toulon fell into the hands of Royalists and British forces. The fate of the Republic hung in the balance. Enter a young artillery officer named Napoleon Bonaparte. At just 24 years old, Napoleon arrived at Toulon on September 12, 1793, eager to prove himself and turn the tide of war. In early September 1793, the revolutionary government, recognizing the dire situation at Toulon, dispatched a substantial force to reclaim the port. General Jean-François Carteau, originally a painter with limited military experience, was placed in command of the siege. His initial efforts to coordinate the attack were met with mixed results, highlighting the need for more effective leadership and strategic planning. On September 12, 1793, Napoleon Bonaparte arrived at Toulon. Observing the disorganized state of the revolutionary artillery, Napoleon quickly took action. He began by meticulously inspecting the existing artillery placements and supply lines. His sharp eye for detail and unrelenting drive for efficiency soon became apparent. Napoleon identified the strategic importance of the heights of L'Aiguillette and Fort Mulgrave, recognizing that controlling these positions would be crucial for a successful siege. Napoleon's arrival marked a turning point in the siege. He proposed a bold plan to the commanders, advocating for a concentrated effort to capture the high ground. His plan involved a combination of relentless artillery bombardments and coordinated infantry assaults. Although still relatively unknown, Napoleon's confidence and clear strategic vision began to earn him the respect of his peers. On September 18, 1793, Napoleon directed the reorganization of the artillery units. He oversaw the construction of new batteries and the improvement of existing ones. By optimizing the placement and effectiveness of the cannons, he aimed to exert constant pressure on the enemy's defenses. Napoleon's tireless work ethic and innovative tactics started to shift the momentum in favor of the revolutionary forces. By early October, Napoleon Bonaparte's preparations were complete. On October 7, 1793, the revolutionary forces launched their first major assault aimed at capturing the strategic heights of L'Aiguillette. The plan was ambitious and required precise coordination between the artillery and infantry units. As dawn broke, the French artillery began a relentless bombardment of the enemy positions. Napoleon had positioned his cannons to maximize their effectiveness, focusing on key fortifications that defended the high ground. The deafening roar of cannon fire echoed through the hills, signaling the start of the offensive. Under the cover of this artillery barrage, French infantry units advanced, their movements carefully timed to coincide with the bombardment. The defenders, comprising British, Spanish, and Royalist forces, were caught off guard by the intensity and precision of the attack. Despite their fortifications, the sheer volume of artillery fire began to take its toll. Napoleon's strategy was to create breaches in the enemy lines, allowing the infantry to exploit these weaknesses. As the French troops pressed forward, fierce, hand-to-hand combat ensued. The fighting was brutal and chaotic, with both sides suffering significant casualties. Amidst the smoke and confusion, Napoleon's leadership shone through. He moved along the lines, directing the placement of artillery and encouraging the soldiers, his presence a constant source of motivation. One of the critical moments came when a French unit managed to overrun a key enemy position on the slopes of L'Aiguillette. This success was instrumental in tilting the balance in favor of the revolutionary forces. The defenders, now facing mounting pressure and unable to regroup effectively, began to falter. Following the initial success on October 7th, the revolutionary forces, under the strategic guidance of Napoleon Bonaparte, prepared for a critical assault aimed at solidifying their position on the heights of L'Aiguillette. On October 17, 1793, Napoleon orchestrated a meticulously planned attack designed to break the enemy's hold on this vital position. In the early hours of the morning, French artillery opened up with a devastating barrage. Napoleon had enhanced the artillery positions, ensuring that the cannons could deliver concentrated firepower on key enemy fortifications. The precision and intensity of the bombardment created significant breaches in the defenses, paving the way for the infantry assault. The French infantry, under the command of experienced officers like Major Jean-Baptiste Salmy and Colonel François Aimable Ruffin, advanced in well-coordinated waves. Salmy, a seasoned veteran known for his bravery, led his men with determination, pushing through heavy resistance. Ruffin, equally resolute, directed his troops with strategic acumen, exploiting the weaknesses created by the artillery fire. As the French troops ascended the heights, they encountered fierce opposition. The defenders, now under intense pressure, fought tenaciously to hold their ground. The combat was intense, with soldiers engaging in brutal, close-quarters fighting. The rocky terrain and fortified positions made the advance slow and perilous. Napoleon, observing the battle from a forward position, adjusted his strategy in real time. He directed additional artillery fire to support the infantry's advance, ensuring that the pressure on the defenders remained unrelenting. His ability to adapt and respond to the unfolding situation was crucial in maintaining the momentum of the attack. One of the pivotal moments of the assault came when Major Salm's unit breached a particularly well-defended section of the enemy line. This breakthrough allowed the French to gain a strategic vantage point from which they could direct more effective fire on the remaining enemy positions. Encouraged by this success, the French forces intensified their efforts, gradually overpowering the defenders. By the end of the day, the French had secured Les Guillettes. The capture of this critical high ground significantly weakened the enemy's defensive posture and gave the revolutionary forces a commanding position overlooking Toulon. As winter approached, the revolutionary forces, now firmly in control of the heights of Les Guillettes, focused on consolidating their gains and preparing for the final assault on Toulon. Napoleon Bonaparte, displaying his characteristic attention to detail, oversaw the strengthening of artillery positions and the construction of new fortifications. His goal was to create an unbreakable ring of fire around the city, isolating the defenders and cutting off their supply lines. By early December 1793, Napoleon had positioned his artillery in such a way that the enemy was under constant bombardment. The cannons, now more strategically placed, delivered a relentless barrage on the key fortifications held by the British, Spanish, and Royalist forces. This continuous pressure began to wear down the defenders, both physically and mentally. Napoleon's innovative use of artillery was complemented by the efforts of his fellow officers. General Jacques Dugommier, who had taken over command of the siege from Carteau, worked closely with Napoleon to coordinate the operations. Dugommier, a seasoned veteran, provided the necessary support and resources, allowing Napoleon to execute his plans effectively. The defenders, realizing the growing threat posed by the French artillery, attempted several counterattacks to disrupt the siege works. However, each attempt was met with fierce resistance. French soldiers, now well-versed in trench warfare and fortified positions, repelled these attacks with determination. The morale among the French troops was high, bolstered by the steady progress and Napoleon's inspiring leadership. One significant engagement during this period was the repulsion of a major counterattack by the British on December 1st. Led by Major General Charles O'Hara, the British forces launched a daring assault aimed at recapturing the heights. Despite initial success, they were ultimately driven back by a combination of effective artillery fire and resolute infantry defense. O'Hara himself was captured during this engagement, dealing a severe blow to the defenders' command structure. Napoleon's meticulous preparations paid off as the siege progressed. By the second week of December, the French artillery had achieved near-complete dominance over the battlefield. The stage was set for a decisive move to finally break the enemy's hold on Toulon. Napoleon and his commanders began planning the final assault, targeting the remaining strongholds that were critical to the defense of the city. By mid-December 1793, the revolutionary forces were poised for a decisive strike. Napoleon Bonaparte, having meticulously prepared the artillery and fortified the captured heights, identified Fort Mulgrave as a crucial objective. Known to the British as Little Gibraltar due to its formidable defenses, Fort Mulgrave dominated the approaches to Toulon, and its capture was essential for the success of the siege. On the night of December 14th, Napoleon launched a daring assault on Fort Mulgrave. The plan involved a surprise night attack, taking advantage of the darkness to approach the fort undetected. Under the cover of darkness, French troops, led by Colonel François Aimable Ruffin and Major Jean-Baptiste Salm, advanced silently towards the fort. Napoleon had positioned the artillery to provide support at a moment's notice. As the French forces neared the fort, they encountered fierce resistance. The defenders were well prepared and heavily armed. The initial phase of the assault saw intense hand-to-hand combat as the French soldiers fought to breach the outer defenses. The darkness added to the chaos, with soldiers relying on sheer instinct and bravery. Napoleon, observing the battle from a vantage point, coordinated the artillery support with precision. At his command, the French cannons opened fire, targeting the fort's key defensive positions. The well-timed artillery barrage provided much-needed support to the assaulting troops, creating openings in the fort's defenses. Colonel Ruffin, displaying remarkable leadership, led his men in a relentless push through the breached defenses. Despite suffering significant casualties, the French forces pressed on. Major Salme's unit played a crucial role in securing the breaches, allowing more troops to pour into the fort. The defenders, caught off guard by the intensity and coordination of the assault, began to falter. By the early hours of December 15th, the French forces had overrun Fort Mulgrave. The capture of this key position marked a turning point in the siege. With Fort Mulgrave under their control, the revolutionary forces could now bring their artillery to bear directly on Toulon. The defenders, realizing the gravity of their situation, began to prepare for a desperate last stand. With the capture of Fort Mulgrave, the revolutionary forces were now in a position to deliver the final blow to the defenders of Toulon. Napoleon Bonaparte, bolstered by the recent success, meticulously planned the final assault to ensure the complete recapture of the city. The stage was set for December 16, 1793, a day that would determine the fate of Toulon and mark a significant milestone in Napoleon's career. On the morning of December 16th, the French artillery, now positioned on the heights of Les Guillettes and Fort Mulgrave, began an intense bombardment of the remaining enemy fortifications. The continuous and relentless cannon fire aimed to weaken the defenses and demoralize the enemy troops. Under the cover of this barrage, the French infantry units, led by seasoned officers like General Jacques Dugommier and Colonel François Aimable Ruffin, prepared for the final push. As the bombardment reached its peak, the French infantry launched their assault. The primary targets were the forts and batteries that still held out against the revolutionary forces. The attack was coordinated with precision, with infantry units advancing in waves to maintain constant pressure on the defenders. By the afternoon of December 16th, key positions within Toulon had fallen to the revolutionary forces. The remaining defenders, realizing the inevitability of their defeat, began evacuating the city. British Admiral Samuel Hood, overseeing the evacuation, ordered the destruction of the French fleet anchored in the port to prevent it from falling into the hands of the revolutionaries. The docks were set ablaze and ships were scuttled, creating a scene of chaos and destruction. On December 17th, 1793, the revolutionary forces completed the recapture of Toulon. The city, though heavily damaged, was once again under the control of the French Republic. The victory was celebrated as a major triumph, and the strategic port was secured. For Napoleon Bonaparte, this marked the beginning of his rise to prominence. His strategic vision, effective use of artillery, and leadership had been instrumental in the victory. As the fires of revolution continued to burn across Europe, the name Napoleon Bonaparte would soon become synonymous with military genius and ambition. The echoes of Toulon's victory would resonate far beyond the Mediterranean, heralding the rise of a new power in the French military hierarchy. In our next episode, we will follow Napoleon as he embarks on his next great adventure, the Italian campaign. Join us as we delve into the battles and strategies that further solidified his legacy and propelled him to the forefront of European history. The journey of Napoleon Bonaparte is just beginning. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to learn more about history on the Sarcastic History channel.